Hi, I'm Helen from Heritage Garden Seeds, and today I'm going to show you how to plant your onion sets. So this is a variety for spring planted onion sets, and you can sow these right through till mid-April. It's currently the middle of February, so I'm going to plant mine now into modules and grow them on under cover for a month or two before I look to transplant them into their final growing positions. And by doing it this early just means that they're going to get a little bit of a head start to put on some nice healthy root growth so that they're really just ready to go for it once I pop them into the ground. So it really couldn't be easier. I've literally just filled this module tray with compost, and then these are the onion sets. So I'm just going to make sure I've got them the right way up so we can tell which is the right way up, because they've kind of got this little sort of straggly bit, if you like, at the top, and then if we look at the bottom we can see all of the dried roots. So all an onion set is an immature onion. So these would have been grown last year and grown to this size before they were pulled out of the ground and cured and dried over the winter, ready to replant again in the spring. So we're going to pop them root down and just push them into that compost so the tips are just showing through the top. So like I say, it really couldn't be easier. So it doesn't matter if you get any little papery bits, it's just the dried onion skin. It's absolutely fine to plant, you don't need to peel them or anything. So if you've got your onion sets all ready and aren't ready to plant them yet, just take them out of your packaging and lay them out somewhere just so that they can dry, because they can often get a little bit sweaty in transport. So you want to make sure that they're properly dry before you store them, and then just to store them, keep them somewhere cool and dry and dark to prevent them from sprouting. Ideally, as soon as you receive them, it's best to get them into some compost as soon as you can, but some people do like to wait. So if you are going to wait before sowing your onion sets, like I say, just make sure that they're properly dry and then keep them somewhere cool and dark. And obviously just keep an eye on them while you're waiting to plant. They are obviously living things, so they can deteriorate if they're not in the right conditions. So just keep an eye on them, and if you think they're sweating too much, just try and pop them somewhere warm in that case, just to dry them out that little bit more. And then we can just give those a light water. And then I'm just going to pop these in the greenhouse, where they'll start to put on some root growth and we'll start to see some little green shoots sprouting from the top. So as you can see, it could not be easier to plant those onion sets. You don't want to keep them too wet. If they're in soaking wet compost, they are likely to rot. So just water them sparingly if the compost looks particularly dry, and you'll soon start to see some nice healthy green shoots popping through the tops. So like I say, I'm going to pop these in the greenhouse, and then from around about mid-March to mid-April, I will look to transplant those outside. So I'm going to pick a nice open spot with some nice free draining soil, and I'm going to plant those about 10 to 15 centimetres apart. And again, once they go into the ground, it's the same principle as this. The tips will just want to be just showing above the surface of the soil, but the majority of that bulb is going to be below the soil level. Do make sure that you keep your growing area weed free throughout the summer, and water, particularly during dry spells. We are in the UK, so we do get more than enough rain generally. However, if we have a year like last year, it didn't rain for an awful long time, so just keep an eye on those onions, and if the soil looks dry or we haven't had any rain, just make sure you are keeping that growing area well watered as well. So other than weeding, there isn't too much else that you need to do throughout the summer. Obviously, like I say, keep them watered, keep them well weeded, and they'll kind of look after themselves, and then you'll know when they're ready to harvest, because the foliage will start to turn brown and it will flop over onto the ground. And when this happens, you can reduce your watering before stopping it completely, and that will just help your bulbs to dry, which will just help them to store a bit better. You can harvest your lovely onions when the foliage has died back, and then you just want to lift those bulbs and pop them somewhere where you can lay them out and allow them to cure and dry properly. So like a greenhouse, a shed, a garage. Just make sure there's plenty of ventilation as well. So ideally you'll want to leave them to dry for a good few weeks, but you'll know when they're ready, because the next will be completely dry and the skins will be all papery. So once you're happy they're dry, then you can move them into nets, crates, you can tie them into little onion plats and leave them somewhere cool and dry to store. So like I said, it could not be easier to grow your onions from set. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you have any questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me. The best place is always on Instagram. We are at Heritage Garden Seeds, but you can also get me on email. The email address is hello@heritagegardenseeds.com.